So yeah, what I want to talk about is, and it's small group. So what I want to talk about is basically what to do with your computers to prevent being a victim of a cyber attack. Um, and what I, most people who are small business owners look at this and say, you know what? I'm not a target. I'm not, nobody's after me to, nobody's after me to target me. And that's true. So you're not a target of hackers. And what I would say is the internet, look at the internet and look at your computers as a neighborhood. Okay. And you live in the neighborhood. And if a group of burglars goes through the neighborhood, what they do is they look around and they say, well, that guy's garage door is open. Okay. That place looks like it's vacant. That place doesn't have a dog. And so if a group of burglars goes through a neighborhood, what they do is they're not trying to break into your house specifically. They're just trying to find an easy target. Once they find an easy target, they say, okay, now I'll go after that house. And what I would liken the internet and your computers to is the same thing. Hackers aren't after you specifically until they find the open garage door, or until they see you're not home, you're not doing something, and then they will make the attack on you. And what they do is kind of like burglars in the neighborhood. They get into the house and they look around and they see, is there anything good in here? Is there anything valuable? Is there money? Is there jewelry? Is there guns? I mean, whatever. They want to find the things that are valuable that they can use and resell. Well, that's the same with hackers. They could hack into your network, they could hack in your computers, and they're just looking for, is there any valuable data here? And trust me, once they're in your network and they know what your data is, they know how much it's worth. Okay. So in some cases, if you don't have, we had a school, and we talked about cyber attacks at the school, and the principal of the school says, well, you know what? My database is kind of the parents and the kids and things like that. He said, but there's really no significant data in my network that it would be worth anything to anybody. And I said, well, let's take a look. And turns out, yeah, he had the list of all the kids who went to school and their addresses and the parents' names and phone numbers and so on. But that data is not worth very much. So he's like, I don't have to worry too much about being attacked, because if they get my data, I can recreate it. Kids will come to school the next day, get all their names again. And it's not worth that much. And I kind of agreed with him. Yeah, your data is not worth that much because it doesn't have personally identifying information like birthdays, social security numbers, stuff like that. Okay. But your data for your company probably is valuable to you. And that's what hackers are looking for, is how much is it valued to you? Because once they get a hold of your data, they're just going to try and sell it back to you. And what they want to do is sell it back to you for less money than it would cost to recreate it yourself. That makes sense. In most cases, that should make the most sense. They don't really care about your data. They don't even know who you are. They're from Russia. And by the way, that's where most hackers are from, Russia. They're from Russia. They don't care about you, your data. What they just want to know, how much money is the data worth and how much will you pay me for it? So they take it for ransom, which means they encrypt it, and then they hold it hostage for ransom till you pay. And there's interesting industry that's come up around cybersecurity, and that's an industry where if you don't have a Coinbase account, meaning if you don't have an account that, for lack of a better term, allows you to pay in cryptocurrency, well, there's companies that will take your money. Let's say that you get hacked and the request is for $20,000 in cryptocurrency, because that's the only way you can pay hackers is cryptocurrency. There are companies who will take your $20,000 and for 15%, so that would be another $3,000 or so. They'd take $23,000 from you and they'd pay $20,000 to the hackers and you get your data back. And they get to keep the 3,000 because you didn't have your own crypto account. So they're actually, if you're a business owner, there's a reason to have a crypto account with like $500 in it. Just because if you ever did need to pay somebody in crypto, you would have the account already set up. Otherwise, it takes a couple days to set up, and hackers won't wait that long once they take control of your data. So I encourage every business owner to have a crypto account just in case, not for investment, just to have some money there so that if you ever did need to pay someone in crypto, you have the ability to do it immediately. Otherwise, you're going to pay a 15% premium to use somebody else's crypto account to do it. So now I've got everybody thinking about, okay, what would happen if there was a problem? And by the way, these businesses that charge us 15%, there's a couple different ones. They're making plenty of money because people are getting hacked all the time. So you're not a target, but if you leave the garage door open, basically, or you leave the front door open, or maybe you don't have a dog, or whatever, you're not a target, but if they find their way in, they're going to try and figure out how to get some money from you. So there's 14 ways and 14 things you should be doing that are pretty easy to do. I'm just going to go through them very quickly. And then if you have questions on it or you want to discuss it further, I'd be happy to talk to you about it individually. But the first thing you should do for your computers is basically just a basic security assessment. Okay, you can get security assessments online even. And in fact, I have the document, Elizabeth, that I sent to you. This would be a security assessment type document. So you can do a security assessment. And that's the first thing. The security assessment basically, again, says, okay, what are you doing in these areas to make sure that you don't get hacked? First of all, after you do a security assessment, what you're going to look at is how do you filter your email for spam? And how do you watch out for malicious emails? Everybody's got the email where somebody comes in and says, hey, here's a purchase order, and click on this purchase order so that we can send you a sale or whatever. Okay. Or click on this money order here. Click on this because we're trying to send you some money. Those are spam emails. And if you click on them, sometimes you'll get what's called malware, which is malicious software that starts to run on your computer. Sometimes the emails are just going to ask you to put in credentials. They want your credentials so they can get in there. And basically, they want your credentials so they can do even more damage. You get into your network and get into your bank accounts and things like that. So you have to filter your email for spam. Second of all, and for people who are on camera, how many people reuse passwords? Raise your hand. Come on, every hand should be up because people do reuse passwords. You have to be careful with passwords because once you reuse them, if one of the sites that you reuse a password on, if one of those sites get breached, now people can guess your password because they know you reuse passwords. So if they decide to attack, they can find your name on a site that's breached. And effectively, if they have your name on a site that's breached and they have your company, they can make a really good attack to your company. So you should be aware that you shouldn't reuse passwords. I know everybody does. There are things called password managers. There's a password manager called LastPass, and it's free. As long as you use it for yourself, you can use LastPass. It's absolutely free. Now, as soon as they get your email and your name, LastPass gives you their free version, but then they're going to ask you to buy the premium version. They're going to ask you to buy the version that now it works on your phone as well as your computer. And it sounds, oh, it's only $3 or $4 a month or whatever, but just be aware that there are password managers that are free. They give you strong, secure passwords, and they give you strong, secure passwords that are not the same. It makes it very difficult to breach your passwords if you use a password manager. And again, for individuals, they're free. For businesses, a password manager probably costs $3 to $5 a month per user. Password managers are worth the investment. And the other nice thing about it is they're really productive. Most people have between 50 and 90 passwords. I'm going to give you an example right here. This thing right here, that's a Garmin watch. And it gives me my telemetry on, what's my heartbeat, how many steps did I take, stuff like that. That Garmin watch connects to my phone connects to my computer, and it gives me all effectively my health statistics, which aren't really good, but I mean, they are what they are. I get 8,000 steps in a day, so I do some. But that Garmin watch has a password. And I don't know what my Garmin watch password is exactly, but I'll bet I could find it in 3 tries because there's probably 3 passwords I reuse all the time. And they work for personal devices like this. If you have LastPass or something like that, which I do for my business, you don't have to worry about passwords being reused. That's security awareness would be another step to password management. And that is just be aware of what looks like a malicious email and just be aware of, don't give things out to people who don't deserve to have them. Your bank is probably very clear on this, but other companies are not maybe as clear. Security awareness just means be aware of the emails you're getting and say, why am I getting this? And should I open it or not? A couple other things you can do that are kind of like password management is called multi-factor authentication. Now, multi-factor authentication works slightly differently than password manager, but what multi-factor authentication does is it requires for me to log into my computer. Literally somebody has to have my phone in order to log into my computer. So when I go to log into my computer, the computer says, I'm sending a message to your phone. It sends a message to my phone. I click accept and it logs me in. If I don't click accept, my computer won't log me in. That's called multi-factor authentication. Basically, what it means is that not only do I have to have the correct login, but I have to have a second or third device that also confirms my login. And that makes it much more difficult. Even if somebody had my password, they still can't get into my computer. Because they need my password and they need my phone. Or they need my password and they need my fingerprint. Or they need my password and they need my face. None of those things they're gonna have. I guess if they cut off my finger, they can have my fingerprint. But I don't have things that are so valuable. It's not like a James Bond movie here at Central Office Systems. So they're, nobody's coming after my hand to, figure out how to get into, how to get in our computer system. Computer updates. All computers get updates. Everybody here has seen their computers. You get a message that says computer's updating, or you start the computer one morning, it says, please wait, updating or whatever. Computers require updates all the time. Normally, these are security updates. The reason they're updating it is because they found something in the program that either doesn't work right, or they found something in the program that is hackable and they want to change it. So updating your computers is important and critical, and a lot of companies don't do it. Unless you have somebody who does it automatically and pushes it through, many people, their computers aren't updated, and so their computers are vulnerable to hacking. Dark web research. This is really scary stuff. There about 10%, you see about 10% of the internet. Well, 90% of the internet is hidden from you. And many people call that the dark web. But the dark web is effectively a place where hackers live. And your information is for sale on the dark web. So I'm not going to do this here because it freaks people out. But I see Joaquin Soto. So hi, Joaquin. If I took your email address and put it into what I call my dark web research tool, I could find everything that is about your identity that's for sale. I could find that and give you a report on it. Well, I could do it for any one of you, actually. What I do is I take the email address of your company. So in my case, it would be centralofficesystems.com. Okay. And once I can get that nomenclature, centralofficesystem.com, I can actually come back and get a report on everything that's for sale that has a email of centralofficesystem.com. I get a report on every one of them. And it's scary because you start to realize then it shows me the passwords too. So I know what passwords not to reuse, because you're not supposed to reuse any passwords, but they're there. And so if anybody at the end of this, if anybody would like to see what their dark web research is, I'll give you a free report on that. You won't like it because your name and your information is for sale on the dark web. And I can only show you what's out there for sale. I can't fix it. It's already out there. But it's nice to know it's out there. And there's some areas where you go, yeah, I need to change this or that or the other thing once you see the report. Advanced endpoint detection and response. I love how they put that. That's called antivirus. Every computer should have an antivirus on it. And if you're using Norton or, some of the, what I call consumer antiviruses, you should switch to a business antivirus. And ideally, you should switch to an advanced one that can do things. So let me give you an example. Norton. If you log in with Norton with your proper credentials in Milwaukee, and an hour later you log in with your proper credentials in Dallas, Texas, as long as you have the proper credentials, Norton is going to let you log in. That's what they do. Credentials are correct. Okay. With advanced endpoint detection, if you log in Milwaukee and you try and log in Dallas in 1 hour, your antivirus is going to see that and it's going to go, well, you can't possibly do that. You can't be in Milwaukee and Dallas within an hour. They call it impossible travel. But they would shut down your login until they figured out which login was correct. So kind of without putting too fine of a point on it, kind of a little bit of artificial intelligence inside of your antivirus helps a lot. And a lot of companies use a less expensive antivirus or whatever one came with the computer in some cases, and you're not getting a real good endpoint detection and response. So I urge you to take a look at your antivirus, make sure you have the right one. If you look further down, there's something called SIEM or /log management. For small businesses, SIEM and log management is useful, but basically what SIEM is it's threat detection, threat monitoring, and responses. As your network grows, if you get a lot more computers, you're definitely going to want to have threat detection and monitoring and response, and that's what SIEM log management does. And it allows the people who are servicing your computers to kind of see what's happening. It uses big data and effectively tries to help prevent your network from having security incidents to begin with. It's an interesting product as you start to grow that you should consider for your computer networks. Web gateway security is effectively the internet or the protection companies know when new viruses and new things come out. And with web gateway security, they basically update that very quickly so that security, what I call 0-day security threats, meaning brand new security threats that have come out that nobody's ever seen before. With web gateway security, you're trying to always mitigate those things. So it's as soon as they come out, web gateway security will see them and block them, which is useful. As soon as they're recognized, that is. If they don't recognize them, you can't block them. Mobile device security means make sure your phones are locked down as well as your computers. Most people probably get their emails on their phones. They get their emails on their phones and their computers and so on. You need to make sure that the phones are reasonably secure as well. Most people forget about that. So they say, oh, I've got my computer networks all there. And then, everybody's got their phones. You got to be careful with those. You probably have a firewall. If you don't have a firewall, you should talk to me. You should consider getting one. But a firewall basically is a intrusion detection and prevention system. And it's designed to effectively, in some cases, a firewall can be configured so that nothing from Russia gets through the firewall. It sees the IP addresses, Russia's blocked, whatever. That's a very simplified, my text would kill me for saying it that way, because it's a very simplified explanation, but that's kind of what a firewall is. Once you have your data and you're not using it anymore. So let's say that you build houses and you've got a plan for a house and now the house is completely built. You're not going to use that plan anymore because it's a custom home, but the house is completely built, but you need to save the plan. You need to save it. That means your data is at rest. You're probably not going back to that data anymore, but you should. Effectively, you should keep that data around because you don't, if somebody called and said, hey, what did you do over here at this house? You might need it, but you're probably not going to use that data very much anymore. Once the data is at rest and you're not going to use it much anymore, you should encrypt it. And all that means is that basically the data is not easy to get unless you have the encryption key to unlock it. But it's basically locking up your data in a safe once you're done using the data. And then we didn't talk a lot about backup and disaster recovery, but you should have some type of a backup, and there should be 3 sets of data for all your stuff. There should be one set of data that you're using. That's the stuff on your computer that you're working on. There should be one set of data somewhere in your office nearby where your computers are backed up. And then there should be a 3rd set of data in the cloud, off-site. So if a tornado hit your building, data number 1 and data number 2 might be gone, but your cloud data is still there. So you should have 3 sets of data. The one you're working on, a physical backup in your office, and then the 3rd backup in the cloud. And there's a term called air gap, but the backup in the cloud should not be visible. If somebody did get into your network, they shouldn't be able to see where the backup in the cloud is, nor should they be able to get there. And then finally, the last part of my sheet here, because it says 15 ways to prevent a cyber attack. Well, that's 14 things. The 15th thing is make sure you have cyber insurance. Please talk to your insurance guy and make sure that you're properly insured for cyber insurance, because a cyber attack will cost you money. And by the way, the insurance companies are getting more and more specific. If you ask for cyber insurance, in many cases, they're going to come back and ask you, are you doing these other 14 things? How they'll give you a quiz and you have to answer the quiz. And if you answer incorrectly, you might get a higher rate or you might not get insured for cyber insurance. And if that happens, or if you even get the quiz from the insurance company, at that point, call me. If your insurance company starts to ask you questions about how you're dealing with your cyber security, don't answer the questions of the insurance company without talking to your IT person, or if you want, you can call me, like I said, but I mean, don't answer those questions without talking to your IT people first, because you don't want to get turned down for a policy, because then from an insurance standpoint, there's always a question every insurance company asks, and that's, have you ever been declined for a policy before? And if you click the box marked yes, they'll decline you for their policy too. So you never want to have that box checked yes about, have you ever been declined for an insurance policy? Because that costs you money. I went really fast. 12:31. I said 30 minutes. I did it in 31. That feels fast to me. And normally there's people who make comments, but it's hard to do that on Zoom. Much better in person. So I went fast. Questions? How can I mean, and if you need me to send you anything, if you want that dark web scan or anything like that to scare you, be happy to do it. It's very scary, but you should know it. And so how, what questions can I answer if there are any? I thought I heard somebody say something.
Doug, did you have a question?
Yeah, what's the best, what do you recommend for security? Because we have McAfee right now that we're using. And we're in the process, because I'm in the process of updating our security on all our computers, and we're trying to make sure for the type of business we're doing that everything is protected. Right now we have everything, the McAfee and all of that. I don't save any of our files on our computer. I save them all on a backup, and we store them in our computer at night.
Okay.
And we're, because we have to take a lot of precautions, and we're trying to make sure everything's protected. And we're just trying to find if there's something different or better out there to use for the type of service we're doing. And we're into the tax and the accounting business. So we're dealing with a lot of personal information.
To answer your question directly, the product I recommend to all our clients is called Sentinel One. So all one word, Sentinel One, like Sentinel, and then ONE, Sentinel One. Sentinel One gives you a written guarantee that you will not have a successful ransomware or malware attack. They don't guarantee you won't get attacked. They just guarantee that none of the attacks will be successful. So Sentinel One has a 24/7 security operations center, and effectively it guarantees you against up to $1 million, guarantees you against ransomware. That's the one I recommend to our clients. And anybody who's a client of my company, you can't even be a client of my company unless you run that software as your security software. We won't, for people who say, well, we want to run Norton, well, you have to find a different company to work with them. So Sentinel One is what we recommend. I'm not the only company in town that uses it. A lot of security oriented computer IT companies like mine utilize that product as well. But that's the one I would recommend.
Okay, yeah, because that's what we have to do, because we also have to look into getting an IT company to help back us up also.
Yeah, you know I'm in sales, right?
Yes.
So
Top of your sales. So
Good call.
Doug and Tina, you're going to get a call from me now on my.
I know.
But whatever. Yeah, we do. And again, I work with businesses 25 computers and under. So we work with small businesses. Everybody has a niche in terms of computers. A lot of companies want to find 25 to 100 or 50 to 250 computers, things like that. We've decided our niche is specifically small business. And the reason I did that is because I want to be able to, I literally want to know all my clients. I want to, if I walk by them in the store, I want them to say, hello, Art. That's why we chose that specific niche. And that's what I like. I like the idea that I get to go talk to the bosses. So for what that's worth. But Sentinel One.
Oh, we have our answer.
We'll be looking for that call. We'll be reaching out.
We'll be looking.
Probably sooner than you think. So,
Thank you.
Sure, you bet.
Lyndon, go ahead with your question or comment.
Cool. Hey, thanks. Thanks, Art, for the presentation. And I did just jump on the link that Elizabeth shared out, the Sentinel One link to the group, but they don't have kind of a card, at least not that I could find immediately, a rate card. Do you have some maybe estimates for small business around the pricing? I'm sure there's different products and services, but just generally speaking, kind of maybe some of the lower tiers of Sentinel One.
$8 a month.
How much?
$8 a month approximately.
What? That's all? $8 a month? Wow.
$8 per month per computer. So
Wow. Okay. Wow.
$25 a month. That's the best. I mean, you pay, if you figure out what Norton is probably, my guess is Norton's probably somewhere between 100 and 300 a year. I don't know what it goes for anymore because.
Well, and then a follow-on question, maybe, is that pricing, could you even get that just on a personal basis? Because it's not, yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to pay that just for that guarantee. That's pretty cool. Thank you.
We put it on, and that's the price that I charge clients. We put it on, we monitor it, we do all that stuff. And that's the same price. If you went online, I think it's the same price as online.
Thank you.
You bet.
What other questions do you guys have? No, this is a big
Art,
topic.
I have a question. Is it this topic today was specific cybersecurity, which is the most important. But also, I'm assuming you guys are an IT company, so you guys can help set up a small business, set up a server as well, obviously with security and everything, so that it's not obviously it's not hacked. So you have all that. I don't know if Elizabeth, you can send us Art's information, and we can.
Oh, I would be happy to.
Awesome.
I can include that, the Sentinel One, and the worksheet that Art referred to.
I'll send you the Sentinel One sheet. I've got a piece of literature on that talks about their guarantee. So I'll put that out there. But yeah, we do. Effectively, that's exactly what I do, small business IT. So people who need a server, people who need security. The only thing I'd say is we approach our IT from a very security-centric model. So what I try and explain to people is this. I do not, where I say I want customers to recognize me if we walk by each other in the store or something like that, I do want that. What I don't want is I don't want to be sitting across from a customer in a courtroom because they're suing me because I messed up their security. I do not want that at all. So we are absolutely paranoid about making sure that the security is good, because that's that's your first step. And you know what? There's lots of ways to make your computers work. Once you've got a good baseline of security behind it, there's lots of ways to make your computers work, and different IT companies might do it different ways. But the basis of security first, and then we figure out how to make the computers work the way you want. And again, if you're financial, maybe you have clients who are QuickBooks, and then there's a big debate of QuickBooks internally on a server or QuickBooks online. I mean, there's, and we're QuickBooks Online here, so we use QuickBooks. We're QuickBooks Online, but we have some people QuickBooks on the server. We can do it either way, but the first step is to protect, basically get that fence around the house, and then put the dog inside the fence, and then make sure that there's lots of lights around the house. I love the whole burglar analogy. That's why I keep using it.
I'm glad you brought up the QuickBooks, because we would like to see set up QuickBooks Desktop on a server so that different users can access and work on the files and the clients.
Mhm.
QuickBooks
That's-
Desktop is just a little more complete. So some of our clients, we have to use desktop as opposed to QuickBooks Online.
Right, and we set them up. We do that. That's, I mean, that's, and QuickBooks is the most popular accounting program out there. So of course we know that it's the most popular small business accounting program. And we're also blessed with the fact that we use it ourselves internally. So we, we have that knowledge there. We can help in a lot of ways. So that, happy with it. Certainly can help.
Well, I look forward to reaching out to you after.
A quick follow-up to Joaquin's questions there, Art, and then your response. When is there an optimal time to kind of put the fence up around QuickBooks? I mean, in other words, prior to setting up, an account or post, or does it not really matter? I'm just curious about that, but any thoughts you have on that?
There's no optimal time to, I mean, the optimal time to make sure you're protected is immediately.
Right. No,
Because
I just meant maybe
Yeah,
because we don't.
Once you're protected, everything we do, like for QuickBooks, would be behind the wall.
Right.
So you do the protection first, and then you deal with the setting up of the network and setting up of the computers and all that stuff. And then there are things, so one of the weird things, when you put Sentinel-1 on your computer, for about a day or two, it actually bogs down. Because Sentinel-1 is artificially intelligent. So what it does is it's learning everything. It scans everything in your computer. It learns everything inside your computer. So it knows to watch for anomalous behavior.
Mhm.
So for the first day or two, Sentinel-1 actually slows your computers down because it's just learning everything about your computer. Then once it knows how you use your computer, everything goes back to normal again. But there's, when you put the security on there, you notice something immediately, and then it kind of disappears after 2 or 3 days. It disappears.
Well, and I guess maybe another follow-up on pricing. The licensing for Sentinel-1 in and of itself, that's very negligible. But then I'm assuming there's got to be fees and for your expertise and your company. What does that look like? I mean, I know there'd be different versions, but could you give some basics on that?
For doing stuff like that, it's just called onboarding. So
Yeah.
we could onboard you to Sentinel-1, and we basically charge $162.25 per hour. I don't know why we came up with the 0.25, but that was somebody else's choice.
Could kind of haggle over that 25? I'm only kidding, but anyway.
Again, that's what we.
Yep.
That's what we came up with, and
Sure.
so I said, okay, that's fine. My comment from a sales standpoint, you guys are talking, my comment from a sales standpoint was, why don't we just say 165, because
Sure.
nobody will care. But it's 162.25 per hour. Putting Sentinel-1 on is basically an hour or less task. So that would be your onboarding, if you will. If we're onboarding and setting up a whole new network with, like Lockwood was saying, where, hey, we need to get our QuickBooks organized, so on, that might be a 3 or 4 hour task. And that might be a little longer. But just to put Sentinel-1 on, and Sentinel-1, we can add that remotely. We just, we don't even need to come out to do that. We can log into your computer and add it remotely.
Thank you.
Sure. I feel like it wasn't scary enough here today. I feel like I should, and I've had people, there is a whole, because again, I'm in sales, so there is a whole group of people in IT who work on their presentations for cybersecurity and try and make them extra scary, because the scarier it is, the more people have a tendency to say, well, I got to do something for what that's worth. But I would say cybersecurity is scary.
And Art, maybe I missed this, but if you get hacked once, what is the chances of it happening over again?
Well, if you get hacked once, the chance of getting hacked again is really dependent on that sheet I gave you, there's something called SIEM, SIEM log management. If you have log management or SIEM on your computer, you can see how the hack occurred, what happened, how the hack got through the system, and you can root it out.
Gotcha.
Without the log management, without having the log management, it makes it much more difficult to root out the hack. And you do have a chance to be hacked again, and they will do it. Because if you paid, say, $10,000 to get your data back, they'll be happy to charge you another $10,000 to get your data back a second time.
Hmm.
And these guys negotiate this. They'll negotiate with you. So maybe your first hack costs you $10,000, but the second one is only going to be $7,500 because they know you're a reliable payer. So I'm not kidding. That's seriously, they negotiate this stuff. So if you do get hacked, your first call needs to be, if you get hacked, your first call needs to be to your IT company, but your second call needs to be to your insurance company. And then there should be a third call, and that should be to your attorney. And your attorney should be on all the correspondence on this, because once your attorney's involved, you have attorney-client privilege. So if you did something and you lost customer data or you lost client data or things like that, you have attorney-client privilege. They can't necessarily find out how you screwed up. So there's a reason for attorneys. There's no
Doug and
attorneys
Lynn.
out here, right? I mean, there's no.
No,
But there's a reason for it.
thank you.
Doug and Tina, did you have another question?
One more.
Go ahead.
We just have one more we were thinking of as far as insurance. Is there any specific companies, or can we go through like our existing insurance carrier? Or do we have to look for a certain? Oh, I'm sorry. I was just wondering, because can we just call our insurance company, our existing, and ask them about the cybersecurity?
Yes. All insurance carriers that are doing property, your property and casualty is where insurance resides, in the property and casualty. So your property and casualty agent can probably give you the best information on that.
Okay.
I would say this, that I think we're with West Bend currently, but we had been with Acuity before that. And my company has a lot more insurance than you guys do, because if somebody hacks me, they theoretically could get into all our hundreds of customers, which would be even worse. But there's a lot of good property and insurance companies. The three that I know of that seem to have the most aggressive rates are West Bend, Acuity, and Erie. But your insurance agent might have a different idea on that. I don't know. Those are
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I'm not the insurance guy, so
Yeah, we just weren't sure, if, I guess, I know everything varies, so. Thank you, though.
And Doug and
All that
Tina,
stuff to
it's
figure out.
one of the
Mhm.
it's one of the last Spark sessions. Is we have Chantel Parr Taylor, who is a insurance broker. So she works with several different insurance agencies. So that would be a really good question for her too. And I'm sure some other Sparks are
Okay.
wondering that as well.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you, guys.
so no more questions then?
Anything else? You answered the one question that I had, Art, which was, what do you do if you get hacked? But you,
Well, first call your IT company.
I thought you were
Second,
gonna say first call you, but
I mean, your IT, actually, if you have an IT company, call them, because they're gonna know your system better than I would. If you don't have one, yes, call me. I mean, I can put 3 guys on site within 24 hours. I can put 3 guys in anybody's office here in southeastern Wisconsin. So I mean, we have the capability, but if you get hacked, it's unfortunately a more common occurrence than people realize. And it is, I mean, if anybody ever had a fire at their business, I never have, but I can imagine that getting hacked and having a fire at your business would be the same type of challenge and emergency. I mean, just, it's something you don't anticipate, that you know, that throws all sorts of things. Your customer service gets hurt. I mean, just spend the money on the right things to avoid the hacking, because it'll cost you way less to do that.
Mhm.
So,
Any other questions for Art?
No.
Lyndon?
Oh, no, just saying thank you for for running the session to all Scale Up leadership, and thanks Art for today.
All right, this was great. Yeah.
Yeah, super informative. Well, if there are no other questions, we'll give you 9 days back, or 9 days, 9 minutes back in your day. I wish I could give you 9 days. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Art. This was so informative, and everyone take your cybersecurity seriously. Stay well.